We're going to talk about right-of-way laws and what is the right-of-way, and we'll explain a little bit about that because it's very important when driving. If you don't know when to go or when to yield, you're going to have some major problems in your driving experience. Let's start today with that. First off, there's a question. The law gives blank the right-of-way. And the correct answer is no one. Really, no one has the right of way. You say, what about a fire truck? They have the right of way. Actually, it's who should yield. So when you come to an intersection and you see a fire truck coming, you know you have to yield to that fire truck. And that fire truck needs to get to the fire. Now, if a policeman and a fire truck come to an intersection, who should yield? And I believe the policeman has to yield to the fire truck. Okay, unless the policeman's controlling the traffic at the intersection. So it's really, it can get really complicated, but really for you, you know who you should yield to in certain circumstances, and that's what we're going to work on today. First one, entering an unmarked or open intersection. You say, what's that? This is when two vehicles approach or enter an intersection from different roadways at about the same time. The driver of the vehicle on the left must yield the right-of-way to the vehicle on the right. Alright, so an unmarked intersection you might see in some developments. They don't have stop signs up, and this can be a little confusing. I see them a lot in my cabin. There's no stop signs. It's just like intersections, and it's intersections like this, and you have to know what to do. Generally, what you should do, though, is whenever you come about the same time as someone else at one of these intersections, you should always yield to your right. So in this case, A is coming the same time as B. A should yield to B because B is to the right of A. If the driver was looking out, to the right would be this vehicle, and he should yield to them. And the same case is here as well. Okay, again, unmarked intersection. Now, if there was a stop sign here or a traffic light, obviously this person would have to yield to this one, but there's nothing in this case, then B should yield to A. In this intersection, A should yield to B. And again here, A should yield to B because, again, the vehicle on the right you should yield to. So A should stop and let B go because he's to the right of an unmarked intersection. Not real common unless, again, like I said, up at a cabin or different areas that would be not fully functional yet. Maybe like a development that isn't up and running yet, don't have all the stop signs and things. Okay, let's see what else is going on here. The next one is the right-of-way laws. Entering roadway from a driveway, alley, or park position. So if you are parked alongside the road and you plan to get back and re-enter the road, you would really have to yield to the cars that are already on the road going. So in this case, B would yield to A. So A would go first and then B. If you're pulling out from an alleyway like this in the city, or even we have alleyways in Manchester, and cars are coming, you would want to yield to the cars on the main road. So C would have to yield to A and B. So A and B would go first before C could go. Same way with this. B's backing out of the driveway. You got B, in this case, would be a bicyclist riding. B would go first, and then A. Also pulling from the shoulder on like a highway situation. Maybe you're changing a tire or checking something out. You would let A go first and then B. So let's read the whole thing. The driver entering a roadway from a park position, standing position, parking lot, shopping area, alley, and private drive shall yield to cars approaching on the roadway and to pedestrians on the sidewalk, which include bicyclists here. Okay, don't trust your dog. There you go. Now, the right-of-way laws, lane ends or an obstruction. So if something's in your way or something ends. When a lane ends or there is an object in your lane, the driver of a vehicle using this lane shall yield the right-of-way to oncoming vehicles or following vehicles in the adjacent lane. So what's this look like? Well, this could happen up in like Harrisburg. You have 3 lanes, the right lane ends, and you have to get over. So who would get to go first in this case, A or B? A would go first, okay, because your lane ends. This guy's lane ends. You can't just cut over in front of somebody. You would have to put your turn signal on and find an opening and come over. So A goes first, then B. In this case, B has an obstruction. And this is sort of wide here. You think, oh, they could both make it. And it does look like that. But maybe like in High Street, where it's very narrow, maybe just enough for 1 car if you have 2 cars on both sides. And so in this case, A would go first and then B, because B has the obstruction. And same here. B has an obstruction of some type of construction. A would get to go first, and then B would go around and continue. Also would hold true for like a garbage truck and things like that as well. Any obstruction on your side would then, you would have to yield to the oncoming. Next up is the right-of-way laws in reference to vehicles turning left against traffic. Now, left can be the most complicated thing in traffic lights and things. A driver turning left within an intersection into a driveway, into an alley, into an off-street area shall yield the right-of-way to vehicles approaching from the opposite direction. So what's that mean? Okay, so A either wants to go straight or right, and B wants to make the left. You can't cut across into someone else's lane without yielding to them. All right, it doesn't work that way. So like you have to let this person go either straight or right, and then you make your left turn. When you're making a left, unless you have a green arrow, you have to yield to let everybody else do what they want to do first. Okay, so first A, then B. Same thing here. Okay, green light, let A go first, and then B. 14, you got B and C both turning left, and you got A and D continuing straight. In this case, so you would let you would want to be careful of this. Now you could do this at the same time. B and C can turn at the same time. That's allowed. But you really got to watch these guys behind here. Now, if there was another lane here, you would want to do it. But if this is just like a shoulder, they shouldn't really go around on a shoulder and do this. Be very careful of that. Sometimes there's a lot of accidents with people sneaking around, and they have an accident because they're turning and not yielding. Here, this guy's getting stuck out here. He's trying to turn. You got to let these people go first and then pull out. And here, pulling into a driveway or something like that, you would want to let B go first and then A, because you're crossing their lane. When you're crossing their lane, you got to yield to them. Okay, entering intersections controlled by signs and flashing reds. Basically stop signs here. A driver entering an intersection controlled by a stop sign, yield sign, or red flashing signal light shall yield the right-of-way to any auto in the intersection or approaching from another road. Coming to a complete stop does not relieve a driver of the duty to yield before entering. Okay, now we're getting complicated. We're going to throw in 3 cars and stop signs and all that. So, okay, we've got A, B, and C. A wants to make a left. B wants to go straight. C wants to go straight. Now, C has a stop sign. These two do not. So, who would go first? And the answer is B. Okay, because he's going straight. A has to yield to him because he's making a left. And C has to let everyone else go first because he has a stop sign. You're always last when you have a stop sign compared to people that don't. So, B, A, and then C would be the order. Now, what if they get there all at the same time? This happens out in front of the high school and also in front of the middle school. We have 4-way stops. A, B, and C come together. Now, who would go first? Now, remember that first rule we learned about today. Yield to your right. If you get there about the same time, you should yield to your right. And that also holds true with stop signs like this. So, C would yield to his right. B would yield to her right. And A would yield to their right. But there's no one there. So that would mean A would go first, then B, then C. So it's A, B, and C. Okay, now remember, some people don't completely stop or yield. They just sort of slow down and go. It's called a California roll, California stop. You just keep going. So just be aware of that. That some people just might just keep rolling. So just be aware of it. Here's this yield sign as well. First one, the yield sign would have to be last, so it would be the same scenarios up here. It would be B, then A, and then C. Okay? Now this one's a flashing red light. You might see this down by Emmetsville. There's a flashing red light on the sides. Okay, the main road has a yellow light, but the sides have red. Also out by, if you ever go to Ski Round Top, they have a flashing red. But that one's a four-way stop. But this one's only a two-way stop. So this would be indicating for these two directions get a flashing red. So this guy's a flashing red, which is the same as a stop sign. Now B goes first. In this case, he's going straight. A is actually making a left, so they would go second, and then C, because again, the flashing red, you're last. You got to let everybody else go first when you have any type of sign indicating that. All right, next up is intersections controlled by traffic signals. Drivers facing the steady green signal light with or without arrow shall yield the right-of-way to other autos and pedestrians lawfully within the intersection at the time such signal is lighted. Drivers facing a steady red signal light and turning right when allowed shall yield the right-of-way to other pedestrians and other vehicles lawfully within the intersection. Okay, so this vehicle is coming up here, and this guy just got a green light, but maybe he was waiting, making a left turn, and he was waiting for all the traffic to clear, and all of a sudden he just got a green light. Well, you gotta let this guy clear the intersection before you just take off. All right? Just because you have a green light doesn't mean you can just roll through it. Let people clear, and then you can go. And sometimes it gets annoying when people back up into an intersection, and they should have stopped back here, and they're stuck in the middle of the intersection. It can be annoying, but you have to let them go. Okay? Same with this one here. This guy has a green light. This guy has a red light. Okay, he has a red light. He wants to make a right turn on red, which you're allowed if you don't. It's not a sign indicating no turn on red. So let A go first, and then B. And same with if you had a little turn lane like you might have down by the trail, I believe, when it meets Route 30. It definitely has a little turn like this. You'd have to yield to people that are going this. And you usually have a yield sign here. So A and then B. Next up is pedestrians crossing situations. Driver of the vehicle must yield to pedestrians crossing at the road at a crosswalk marked or unmarked. Pedestrians crossing the roadway without a crosswalk must yield to vehicles on the roadway. Blind pedestrians with a white cane and guide dog are the exception to the rule. So you got these people walking in a crosswalk, maybe in New York City. You have to let them go. So B goes first, and then A and C. Okay? In this case, same thing. You got A in here. They got a green light. They're in a crosswalk. You really shouldn't be crossing then if these people have green, but it does happen. Just let them get across, and then you continue. Okay, A and then B. This is where it gets really careful when you make a left or right turns in a city. You really got to be watching, because that's when the people usually have the walk signal. And you're making a left turn, and all of a sudden you're stuck there, and you got to wait for these people to cross until you go. So again, A would go first, then C, or B would go first, and then C. And last but not least is the traffic circle. We have a few of these throughout York County and Adams. And basically, the driver of the car entering the circle shall yield to vehicles already in the circle, and the driver of the car within the circle shall yield to another vehicles within the circle and intending to leave the circle. So let's look at this. So you're coming up to it. You're C here. You're coming up to it, and this guy's already in the circle. And he's going around. You can't just barge in there, okay? They usually have a yield sign. Yield to people in the circle. So basically, D goes first and then C. Traffic circles are great, but a lot of times people don't know how to use them.
So this man has to go to that truck because he's already in the circle. And this truck. So already in the circle. He has to wait for an opening, as well as us. Good. Excellent. Let people know when you're leaving.
Okay, they don't know the rules, and this way it's very important to pay attention. So if you're coming up, yield to people in the circle. Now once you're in, you're going around, and people want to leave, they put their turn signal on, let them leave. Okay, slow down, let them leave the circle. Okay, so you yield to people in the circle, and you yield to people that are leaving. So B yields to A, and C yields to D.
Our car's intending to leave the circle. We're going to get off at the second right.
Just put my turn signal on.
Yeah, left turn signal. Okay, yield to people here. Yield to that guy. Okay, go ahead. No, not this right, but the second right. So we're going to sort of move out to the outer part of it. Right turn signal. See, it's almost like 2 lanes here, you know what I mean? So like the one lane, if you just want to keep going around, maybe you want to go there. That way you would keep that one.
Looking patterns when driving at an intersection, you always want to stop. You should stop your vehicle, look left, then right, and then left again before you continue. That's just a good rule of thumb. A lot of kids don't actually turn their heads and look. You have to actually turn your head and look. Left, right, left, and that gets some students when they go for their driver's test. They go across the railroad tracks. They don't look. They go to intersections. They don't look. So make sure you always do that.